You are Locked On Falcons POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Falcons POSTCAST, your home for the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Jarvis Davis and Aaron Freeman. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. The Locked On Falcons POSTCAST is also part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So QB1 and QB2 and Pat, we'll discuss, and we'll do our rookie roundtable assessment. But first, it's cut down time. So Jarvis, the only cut down day of this preseason is coming up Tuesday. Let's start with who you think makes the cut and gets on that 53-man roster.
Wow. When I started going through my mind, and I think it's going to be kind of difficult, but I feel like Natron Brooks is kind of solidified himself as a guy that, might not get that much playing time from the cornerback position per se, because given how things may fall out with a guy like Clark Phillips and and D. Alford and all of those guys, vying for those spots and having those spots locked in, and Mike Hughes as well. So I feel like he had his tackling on display against the Baltimore Ravens, and how well he does that in the open field. You know what? Mm-hmm. Open field tackling is highly valued. Special teams. So I feel like he kind of put himself in that conversation where he will force the Falcons to say, hey, Marquise Williams might be able to use this guy. So I feel like Natron Brooks is a guy that has kind of put himself in a really good spot to be, on this 53-man roster.
And Aaron, what about you? Who's someone that maybe you feel confident about can make that 53-man roster?
Well, I was racking my brain because I was like watching the game, and I'm like, outside of Younghoe Koo and Bradley Pinion and Liam McCullough, I don't know if anybody that played tonight against the Jaguars is going to be on the roster. But one player that I thought definitely made his case was Kevin King, right? Mm-hmm. He got some looks at safety at this position. So in that positional versatility, I think the last time he played safety was like his sophomore year at Washington when Jimmy Lake was the DC back then. So, you have that sort of familiarity and that sort of flexibility, I think will definitely help him make the roster. Maybe Natron Brooks versus Kevin King for that last cornerback spot. But certainly I think those two guys out of everybody that we saw tonight are probably the guys that probably had made the best case for themselves to be on this 53.
Well, JD, unfortunately, of course, there will be some players who have not made the case for themselves this preseason. Who do you think won't make the cut?
Y'all know who I've been, kind of wavering back and forth with.
Yeah.
As far as he's gonna make this roster, I just don't know if D'Angelo Malone gonna make it. I just don't know if he's gonna make it because, even though we know the type of value that he brings to special teams, I just feel like for where he was drafted, coming from the previous regime, and how it is once guys, they start bringing their guys in, meaning Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, and not Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith. When those guys, they start bringing their guys in, they start to move their guys into those spots in those guys, and they want to start developing those guys. They don't try to see if they can squeeze some potential out of a guy that was overdrafted, from the previous regime. So I feel like D'Angelo Malone may be looking for a job come Tuesday.
Free, what about you? Who does not make the cut in your opinion?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of Jarvis with D'Angelo Malone because we were talking about him the other day, previewing this game and sort of wanting to see him. We've seen the special teams value, and I felt like going into this game that might be just enough to get him on the roster, but wanting to see a little bit more from him on defense. And to me, the player that I thought had the game that D'Angelo Malone needed to have on defense was Bradley Anae. You saw him get that sack. He got a couple of pressures. Like, that's what I wanted to see from D'Angelo Malone. And the fact that we didn't get that tonight, and a lot of those big runs that Jacksonville was able to gash him, he was getting stuck on these blocks, and that was always considered a weakness of D'Angelo Malone, given his smaller stature. And I think that kind of got exposed in this game, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, if he sticks, it'll be 100% because of special teams, because I don't know if he's bringing enough on defense to really make this roster at this point.
Yeah, and then you may have some of those players who are right on the bubble, and for whatever reason, maybe just a full position group, full room, and hey, they couldn't get on that 53-man, but of course they could make that practice squad. Jarvis, did anybody kind of impress you where you could say, hey, I can see the Falcons bringing that guy back for the practice squad?
You know what? Oh my gosh, I can't even think his name. Number 64, Togai.
Tommy Togiai,
Tommy Togiai, yeah. I thought he had a really good game as far as, especially against the run, specifically against the run. He was. I like the way he was playing. He was aggressive. He was kind of pushing the pocket in pass situations too. So I feel like he's a guy that can, that'll be a good candidate, especially when you're talking about 16 guys on this practice squad. Yeah. You definitely may be a guy that might be able to sneak on there and be a Falcon, be a guy that the Falcons take a look at once they, cut down to 53.
Free, how about you? Anybody who impressed you for you to say, hey, no, that guy can't make necessarily the 53-man, but he could be good on the practice squad?
Yeah, I'm going to go same position group. Me and Jarvis are like-minded. I'm going to go with Prince Emili. I thought he did some good work in the middle as well. I think we'll probably talk a little later about, some comments from Raheem Morris talking about how, it's going to be hard to cut down that D-line room. And it's like, yeah, they're going to keep a lot of guys on the roster, and they might wind up keeping a lot of guys on the practice squad too. Like we might get like 8 or 9 guys on the roster and like 5 guys on the practice squad, because it feels like pretty much everybody they had in that D-line room this summer in the preseason made enough plays that you feel like that feels like a practice squad guy, but like they just had so many bodies there that you do wonder a little bit if one of these guys is going to miss the boat with that guard. But I thought Emili did a good job. I thought Togiai did a great job too.
Well, Free, since you kind of went into it, let's get into it. Raheem Morris was asked post-game what position group might be the most difficult to cut, and ultimately he said the D-line. Also mentioned the quarterback room. So does that kind of give you a little insight, and it sounds like it does, into maybe who ultimately makes the 53-man roster, doesn't make the roster, or makes that practice squad?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is very interesting, because we understand. Because you had guys like, Kentavious Street, who was on this team last year. He did well, and he showed well in the preseason. Then you got Lakel London, a guy who came in last year and did well, but kind of fell into the background a little bit this year. But there's potential there because based off of history, right, or precedent that he set, last year. So for me, that's why I was not surprised at all that Rob brought up that defensive line, and it's going to be very interesting to see from the bottom end of it, like who they decide to keep. But they kind of give it as a hint because some guys haven't played since that first preseason game. So when you think about it from that standpoint, like, okay, that might be looking at keeping a guy like Street. He might be safe. But Lakel London has been playing all these games. So when you think about it from that standpoint, like, okay, is he a candidate for practice squad, or what are they trying to do? So I feel they're going to have to get really creative when it comes to that defensive line spot. As far as the quarterback spot goes, I'll be very interested in see if 4, is not on this squad, and because I talked about potentially them trading for him, but they might not have time to play around with trying to figure out who wants a guy like Taylor Heinicke. And they might have to just let them go clean.
Yeah. And Free, what about you? Maybe like Jarvis said, from the bottom of that group of DL prospects, who would you say, yeah, that might be one that's right there on the cusp? That might be one who we don't see on that roster, but also in that QB room, who's like the odd man out? You see?
Well, yeah, I think Heinicke definitely, with Raheem's comments, because if you were planning on keeping Heinicke, it wouldn't be a tough decision to really make at that position, because just like we know who our 3 guys are going to be, and so if it's if he's talking about it being a tough decision, like that kind of tells you that, Heinicke we might have seen his last snap as an Atlanta Falcon. And with the D-line group, it's funny because you look at that D-line group with the Falcons drafting Zion Logue and Brandon Dorlus and Rook Ororo, and we were like, oh, they drafted these guys that could leave someone like a Taquan Graham and an Eddie Goldman and a Kentavious Street on the outside looking in, but we saw those guys quickly assert themselves in camp to the point that, as Jarvis said, they played it like 2 series in that first preseason game, and we haven't seen them since, which is pretty much telling you those guys are safe making the roster. The rookies have been getting a lot of run these last couple of weeks, but you've seen Dorlus and Ororo snaps kind of get reduced, so that's kind of telling you that they're going to be safe. So it's going to be interesting to see with guys like Laquale London, who are on that bubble, and others, the Prince Emili's and the Tommy Togiai's and whatnot in this group that, are potentially on the outside looking in. So I think, this D-line group is going to make for some interesting cuts. And I think a lot of these guys did enough good work that we probably will see them get scooped up off the waiver wire, in a couple of days if they do wind up getting cut.
Yeah. Indeed. So next up, it'll be time for our rookie roundtable in the deep dive. This episode help. So BetterHelp, of course, is one of those opportunities for you that could really help you with self-care. I know we kind of throw that word around here and there, but ultimately you do kind of need to take the opportunity to improve where you are or to continue in a good space, which is where you may be as well. But how do you stay there? Maintenance. So you never skip any time at the gym, right? For your physical health. So why not pay attention to how your mental health is as well? And a place for you to start that is BetterHelp. So give it a try. It's entirely online, which is really convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So you only have to fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Now, again, never skip the gym, so never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/locked-on today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked-on for a better mental and physical you. All right, guys. So ESPN had this interesting article about how every rookie in the 2024 draft class and how they performed in the preseason. So I figured, and of course they gave their assessments on the Falcons rookie class, but I figured I'd give you guys an opportunity to kind of give your assessment.
I was just better anyway, T. Yeah, come on now.
I will not saying yay or nay on my other employer, so we're just going to move right along. But that said, Aaron, let's get started.
All right, well, we've known each other for 13 years. All right, okay. We'll go there. But yes, let's go.
Yeah. Come on, Aaron, save us. Give us your preseason rookie assessment on Michael Penix Jr.
Well, I want to be petty and be like it's an incomplete because we didn't get to see him more than one game. But
I mean, we've already gone down that road, so
no, but for the 5 series that we got to see him, we saw good work from Michael Penix. Unfortunately, that was the end of it, and we would have liked to have seen him build off of that, which would have gotten an A+ or whatever grade you want to give if he had been able to successfully build off of that. But I'll give him a solid B+. But again, part of that is just me being petty because it's like you don't get an A because we only got to see you for one game.
Jarvis, what about you? What do you give MPX?
Yeah, I would give him a B because, he didn't have enough time to be able to get all the cobwebs out because, he hadn't thrown a pass. It's been in a live game, since the college football playoffs. So, when you think about it from that standpoint, he may have needed a little bit more time. You know, as you see, the pettiness is coming out of me. I ain't gonna hold back. I come on with it. You know, see, you gotta start how you finish, baby. You know, but seriously though, I feel like we saw some really good things from MPX like in the preseason, and it gives me hope. I really like what I saw. But I feel like it's going to be a situation where it's almost kind of like when you get a chance to bring that slingshot out on a Sunday, or if you rent one and you get it for a couple of days, you're like, oh man, this is great. Oh, okay. You get a feel for it, like, oh man, this is cool. And then you gotta take it back. It's like, wow, man, why we rent MPX for one game, and then we just put them back in the take him back to the doggone dealer and never to see him again. It was like, golly, man, don't do us like that, Rob, man. Hey, come on, man. But yeah, I give him a B overall. I like what I saw. He had some moments there, from some overthrows, but I'm sure that was just nerves for the most part. So yeah, I think I give him a B.
Yeah, and very interesting analogy there, Jarvis. Ruka, what do you think about him free and his performances in the preseason?
I thought the first game was pretty rough, but I think he came back in against the Ravens, got that sack sort of, and finished pretty well. So I'm a hard grader. So because of that one play is really it. It's just kind of like, do I give that a B just because of that? Just because we're Falcons and we just never see sacks. So it's like, okay, well, you get a higher grade because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give Rook some love. He'll get like a B- just for the one play that he made this preseason. That's something that we don't too often get to see here in Atlanta.
I'll go with a C+ because reason why I give him the C+ because, like you said, the sack, obviously in my eyes, that gives you, that pushes that thing right on up. But for me, I got a little bit concerned when he was going against that first team offensive line in this game, and they were moving around, and then the second string came in and they're moving around a little bit too. So I feel like that's a key indicator that these dudes need to play when you give them the opportunity to play, and especially in these preseason games, because we know who's going to be in there once the live bullets start flying. Grady, Dio, Zach, all those guys going to be getting all of those snaps and everything, and then Taquan Graham. Those guys aren't going to play that much, and for them not to play as much, I mean, they kept them playing, but they didn't play them as much. They brought them in situations that's what it looked like to me, especially with Root, But yeah, I have to give him a C+ because I give you love when you get sacks, but oh man, if you soften that running game, oh gosh, I'm gonna bring you right back on down.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's talk about Brandon Dorlus. Freeman, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, he made the fumble recovery, but that's just kind of like right place, right time. So it's like, other than that, like, I think he had a tackle for loss today, maybe tonight in the Jaguars game. But other than that, it's like, so I got to go with like just a regular old C. It's just like a pretty ho-hum preseason, it's just little underwhelming for given that you kind of looked at this group of D linemen and pass rushers that you thought Dorlus was maybe a little bit ahead of some of the other guys based on what he did in college, and you didn't really see that this preseason. So I'll probably go with a C.
And Davis, what are your thoughts on Dorlus?
Wow. For me, I'll probably have to go. Oh, I hate to be this bad, this harsh. I probably gotta go with a D. Like I feel like, to start off, he was part of that group against the Ravens that was being active and moving around in the run game and being active and rushing the passer as well. But like outside of that, I really didn't see that much. He did a little something in the run game tonight, but I just think for me, I would have liked to see a little bit more from him. So I would go in that D range for Dorlus.
And Aaron, what about you? Let's talk JD Bertrand.
Yeah, it was up and down. There was good, there was bad. There's some missed tackles, but he was active. So I'll go. I feel like he had more positive plays than Rook did, but none of them were sacks. So I'll probably go B- for JD Bertrand. I thought he did solid relative to some of the other rookies that we saw.
And you, Jarvis? JD
I would go
Bertrand.
with it. I go with a C plus. I go with a C plus. Borderline B minus. Like I said, he's a tackle machine in college, and that's what he did. He got a lot of tackles, but I feel like you said, he left something out there. Had the potential like difference maker type plays, TFLs. That's what I look for when you come to linebackers, specifically in the run game. So for me, I'll probably go with a C plus. I would have liked to have seen him make a couple of those plays because of him used to being that guy and going to go make those plays. So I'll go with a C plus for JD.
Yeah. And what about Jace McClellan? What were your thoughts on how he played in the preseason, Aaron?
I actually thought he looked the best out of the backup running backs until we got the stellar performance from Spencer Brown tonight, where he just ran out the clock for us so that we could get in and get out. But I thought McClellan looked pretty good relative to. I was more impressed with McClellan than I was with Carlos Washington this preseason. So I'm gonna go with. I'll give Jace McClellan a solid B. I'll give him a B.
Okay, Jarvis, what's your solid grade for him?
I'm kind of indifferent on McClellan, because there were some times where you saw the burst for me, but I feel like I didn't see it enough. Because like once you show me something, I want to see it. I want to see that, as much as possible. And when you think about it, just from where this player was drafted, they didn't show that flash enough. That's why they end up being drafted where they were, a lot of the time, just from a individual evaluation standpoint. So for me, I just go with a C.
Yeah. And somebody who a lot of people thought flashed was Casey Washington. What were your thoughts on him, Free, in terms of what he was able to do this preseason?
I'll be honest with you, I was not that impressed with Casey Washington this summer. Like, he caught passes, but like I was just like, sure, like I don't know. I just like, so I'm gonna go with like a B- on Casey Washington. Like I didn't see anything that like impressed me. It was just kind of like, okay, he's running routes and like Chris Blair impressed me this preseason. Like Casey Washington was just like there catching passes, and it was just like, all right, that's cool, but like nothing that moved the needle for me.
You, Jarvis?
I go with a B because I feel like I take all the Taylor Heinicke stuff out. Like I have to erase that out of my mind, because it was times where he was getting open and the ball wasn't there. The ball was behind him, or he threw a sleeper ball, you know what I'm saying? Like a night ball, and he had to go out there and make an amazing catch, and he did not make it. It could have been a little bit easier. The quarterback could have made it a little bit easier for him, and he didn't. So yeah, I'll go with a B with Casey, because I feel like, just seeing him, in rookie minis, seeing him, going up against guys like AJ Terrell, and I'm like it, not necessarily the ball coming his way, but if that read went that way, he probably would have been able to make a catch. So I like what I see from that standpoint. So I go with a B overall, because when he was with a real quarterback, you saw he was pretty productive.
And we'll wrap up on that note with the rookie class of 2024. Free, what about Zion Logue?
I'll go between Rook and Dorlus. I'll give him a C, just because I thought he played pretty stout against the run, but he just didn't have that sort of splash play that I'm going, like, in 6 months, I'm not going to, like, you're like, oh, you remember Zion Logue? Like, oh, yeah, he did some stuff. Like, I'm going to remember the Rook sack for a while. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'll have at least that in my brain, but there was nothing for Zion to sort of make that long-term impression on me.
I'll probably have to go with a B minus, because I like what I see stout in the run game. 6'6", 314 pounds. You better be stout against the run. I think there was some times where I felt like he had some issues trying to, separate, get out blocked, right, and be able to make those tackles and be able to make a splash play like Free talked about. But I feel like he held his own, against that first string offensive line. I was really pleased by that. He wasn't getting blown off the ball or anything like that. He was pretty much holding it down, and had some potential opportunity to make plays, but he didn't necessarily make it. But I like how his initial, engagement with that first string offensive line for the Jaguars. I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, I give him a B.
So tiebreakers because of special teams, QB1 and QB2 in pads we'll discuss in What's Next. This episode of our Locked On Falcons postcast is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality candidates that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Now, it's not just a job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply, but be like 86% of small businesses who get a qualified candidate within 24 hours by hiring professionals like a professional at LinkedIn. All right, guys. Aaron, you wrote an article for the Falcoholic that basically said special teams matter. You were saying with the new dynamic kickoff return that will force teams to implement new strategies, special teams could be a tiebreaker with some key position battles. So who do you think will break the tie because of their special teams play to make the roster?
I think, as Jarvis mentioned earlier, I think Natron Brooks probably helped himself. He's been getting a lot of look as a returner. He did kind of muff a punt tonight, so that didn't really help his case. But I think with his ability and coverage, with the tackling ability that Jarvis was speaking on, I think he'll definitely help himself when it comes to breaking a tie for the roster.
How about you, Jarvis? Who did you see that maybe because of some play that, whether it was on special teams or other plays, may put himself in position to use special teams as a tiebreaker?
My guy Milo, Milo Eifel. I think he's a guy that that should be. That's very interesting to me because I feel like he had a really nice game against the Baltimore Ravens. Some TFLs, like that stuff means a lot to me. When you're talking about a linebacker that's getting behind the line of scrimmage and diagnosing the play to be able to make a play behind the line of scrimmage, so that matters a lot. So when it also goes along with Natron Brooks as far as making your case for special teams on defense, because if you're able to get through all that, navigate through all that stuff and be able to diagnose a play and boom and make a tackle. How about when it's no plays, no real plays being diagnosed, you just going out there and just being the man and making a tackle? Like that makes that adds value in my eyes. So I feel like Milo is a guy that you can definitely keep an eye on that might be able to squeeze on that roster as far as, being that special teams guy, that captain type guy. So to be out there and make a case for himself.
And free about an hour before kickoff, there were sightings of both Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. in pads. Okay, of course they didn't play, but was it nice for the fans to at least see QB1 and QB2 suited up tonight?
I mean, sure. Like if you got excited for the warm-ups, I mean, great for you, because the warm-ups were better than the game. So, it is what it is. So yeah, I think it was nice to see those guys go through the process. I'm imagining Raheem Morris was treating it like a kind of a rehearsal game or whatever. And so they were preparing like it was a real game, like these guys were going to go play, and it's like, go out there, warm up, and then go sit on the bench because you're not getting out there tonight. Right. So, it was nice to have that, maybe those 5 minutes where you're like, oh, are we going to see these guys play tonight? Like, oh, wow. Okay. And then you're like, okay, yeah. All right. Come back down to earth, that sort of thing.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Not going to happen. Now, it was fun for a second, like you said, to just kind of see Kirk Cousins having these lengthy discussions on the sidelines with Drake London, because like you said, a few simulations of what it would be game like. But I don't know, Jarvis, we talked about it so much, like we're not going to see MPX. I mean, we knew from day one, no Kirk, but we're not going to see MPX anymore. Well, you kind of sort of saw him in pads, just not any action. But hey, it was fun for the fans, I'm sure.
That is just such a big old tease. Just a tease. And I can give an example of how I was teased back in the day, but I don't think we need
I knew we were going there. Like, I knew it. I should have put money on it, man. I should have put money on it. This is the analogy Jarvis will use.
But I can't use that analogy because I might get myself in trouble.
What the heck you're talking about? Dude, what the heck?
I'm just saying, like,
oh, folks, man, we know what you're talking about. We're moving right along.
Because, like, he went up all week, ramped up. Yeah, MPX showed us what we need to see. You know what I'm saying? Kirk ain't playing, so don't talk about no more Kirk. And, y'all know what it is.
Yeah.
And then you got the man dressing out. Why? Because he never dressed out before a game before and warmed up. Like, that's never happened. And then Kirk got a nerve to have his doggone helmet on the sideline. Why? Why, man? What's wrong with y'all? Are y'all trolling us? Like, what is the problem? Right. I don't understand. Why is my voice so high?
Yeah.
See, I need help. Help me, please. I don't know what's going on with me. But now my voice starting to get back regular. But yeah, stop teasing us, y'all. What's up with that? Hey, come on. Goodness.
All right, we'll leave one more fun note. Pre-game, Coach Ra got in the Jaguars huddle. Players didn't realize it was him until a few seconds after they actually broke the huddle. And I know we're ready for him to show and prove as a head coach with what he does on the field. But I don't know, Free, don't you kind of love the way he's kind of going about it and kind of setting that different tone than maybe some things we've seen before?
Yeah, Raheem's fun. You can definitely say that. I don't approve of his preseason playing practices, but he's a fun coach. That's what I'll say.
Get Free. Coming in.
Look, I'm at the point now where I'm just ready to get all this stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want us, because I know a lot of people, even in one of the chats with one of my homeboys, a lot of my college teammates or whatever, and they were just like, man, we hadn't seen anything. I was like, I have, I've seen it up in person, I've seen them, Kirk out there slinging the ball around the Drake, and those guys have a great chemistry with each other. I seen Darnell Mooney being connected with on the deep ball in the 11-on-11 scrimmage that they've had out there. So it's just a matter of, I want to see it against somebody else in a different jersey. Like, that's all. That's it. I just want to see it. I want to see if it can transfer. They always talk about how you practice, how you play, right? If they practice how they play, they're going to be just fine. They should be able to kick the crap out of the Steelers on September 8th. Like, really. Because Lord knows that offense has been struggling, y'all. Don't that get y'all excited? Arthur Smith offense struggling. Offensive line can't block nobody. Quarterback can't get rid of the football. Field goals galore.
Too soon. We're not quite over it. No. Of course, we're well over it at this point in time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thanks to our everydayers, like my guy Bryce, for making the Locked On Falcons postcast your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also free and available wherever you download your podcast. We'll see you next time.